The following conversation is with Matt Dominance. He has an excellent hair restoration channel on YouTube that you should all check out. And in this talk, we discuss logic and his thoughts on hair restoration surgery. All right, Matt, let's jump into what logic says about his thoughts on hair transplants. It seems like he was considering getting one at one point.
Yeah.
I don't know. Have we talked about like my hair? Like, you know, my hair was getting thin. I was going bald. People making fun of me for it.
That's really great for him to open up about his hair loss. You know, a lot of people obviously experience hair loss, and I think it's important, like I don't maybe do a good enough job online defining like the different types of hair loss. You've had your battles with hair loss, I've had mine, and they're not necessarily treated in the same way. So if you want to go through like kind of your hair loss situation, I'll go through mine so people can just see the contrast.
Yeah, well, the androgenic alopecia, that's the type of hair loss that most of the guys have, and then it's the alopecia areata, and then your types of hair loss like universalis, when it's also the body hair, your eyebrows, and pretty much all that hair. So normally it's like androgenic alopecia, and then you just gotta look for the treatments and options that are available for that type of condition, you know. So you start with finasteride, you start with minoxidil. Now recently we have the studies on microneedling, which now should be the new thing, which patients should be adding onto a topical regimen, be the topical minoxidil or some topical vitamins or whatever, some topicals that are promoting the hair growth, and it should be combined with the needling. So yeah, you look into that and then you try it out. Obviously that should be the step number one before considering any surgical options that you may have, or even non-surgical, obviously.
That's a really good overview, Matt, thanks. Yeah, for me, you know, I never experienced androgenic alopecia. At 34, I was good. I had so much hair, and you know, it was a big like asset. One of the reasons to go into hair transplant was like, oh look, I can show people how great my hair looks. And then, you know, this alopecia areata thing struck, and it just knocked out all of my hair. So it just knocked everything out, and like I don't have the option of getting a transplant, I guess, is like what like the big message here is.
Yeah.
And hair transplant's not an option for everybody, but there are like the most common type of condition, which is what we talked about, androgenic alopecia. Like it usually is an option.
It was really hard because I'm like, damn, I'm a pretty young guy in his 20s. And the thing about me was like, it made me feel like I was old.
You mentioned, Matt, that like your hair loss started even in teenage years.
Mm-hmm.
You know, some of my patients, it's like the same thing. But usually there are signs early. Like they might notice it, but they don't know what to do about it, or it's like not really a huge problem at that time, but they don't realize they could potentially prevent it from getting worse.
Yeah, I think it definitely kind of hurts when you are young, because it's like it's kind of like a battle in your identity. You are on one hand a teenager or a guy in your early 20s, on the other hand you're losing your hair like some 50-year-old, and it's like, who am I, right? I was like, you know, if I can do something about it, why not? I would also say if it's going slow, it's not so painful compared to when it's going very fast, like in your case, right? Because you are going like from Norwood 1 to like no hair. Like that's crazy, right? It's not like somebody's going from Norwood 1 to Norwood 3 maybe over 5 years, like a moderate, slow to moderate hair loss progression.
I think like one of the biggest things that a lot of young patients who see me for consultation that they don't realize is like, it's not like you do nothing or you get surgery. And I think that a lot of people don't understand that, especially guys in their early 20s. Like they just think it's like, it's just black or white. And there's so many things you can do on the medical therapy side, on the preventative side, and that often gets lost, or they just never heard about it and whatnot.
I think even if the hair loss is not that aggressive and the guy gets a transplant and then he kind of notice maybe in 5 years later, like, okay, it's kind of thinner there, the contrast is kind of high between the dense looking transplants and transplanted hair and darker looking one, and the native hair is thinner, he could maybe potentially start with the treatment and he could make it look good. But if he's a young guy, this is going to happen maybe in already next year or maybe in 2 years, and then he will regret not being on the treatment, right?
Exactly. So that's why like people ask sometimes, well, when should I seek out a consultation? You know, they just honestly, they don't know. And so my message to them is like, the earlier the better. I mean, as soon as you're starting to see hair loss, like go to see someone, talk to someone who understands hair, to just figure out what your options are.
Once I like was confident with it, I was like, man, you know, it really doesn't matter. Like I buzzed my head. I was like, I'm gonna just rock it, Bruce Willis, it is what it is.
Right.
But before I did that, I went to go I was contemplating getting hair transplants.
Yep.
Because, you know, people were just making fun of me and this and that, and my hairline and all online and all this and all that. And this will probably be in some thing where it's like, Logic was going to get hair transplants, blah, 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 blah.
I guess that's what we're doing, but, you know, it's not meant to ridicule him. It's you know, and I do a lot of the celebrity reaction stuff, and it's never meant to make fun or poke fun at the actual person, but it's really meant to like use it as an example because people recognize these people, they know who they are. Use them as an example of what a lot of other people experience and go through.
No, I mean, definitely it's really important. And he also mentioned one thing, that he was contemplating getting a hair transplant because he was kind of like aware of everybody maybe noticing his receding hairline and maybe pointing it out. And I'm not sure whether this was the reason he was starting to considering the transplant, because that wouldn't be the best reason, right? Because that's out of that, you know, fear of being judged by people as a public person that he is, and that wouldn't be the best reason to get a hair transplant, just to, you know, make these people to like, shut up, now I have that transplanted hair, look, it's good, great, now you won't say a thing about it. It's not the best thing, right, to do it like that. You gotta do it from another, you know, conviction that it's gonna improve your life, improve your confidence, improve your like even look, you know, improve your, you know, career. It's got to be like something that you are really convinced about, that it's gonna bring value to your life.
Yeah, and it's interesting because sometimes like I'll talk about that exact point, you know, quite a bit in my videos, and like I say, like, do it for yourself, you know, don't do it for someone else. And so I totally agree. I feel like it's not only just doing it because you just feel good internally. I think a lot of it does stem from, you know, someone wants to find themselves more attractive to, you know, to someone else, or, you know, they feel like it's going to help them in their career, you know. So that's like a validated point. They're not, you know, just doing that for, you know, just kind of out of whim. I mean, there's a reason for it, beyond just feeling good internally.
I was happy. I was okay with it. I had realized, like, you know what, it's okay, this is what it is. But somehow still found myself in a doctor's office about to pay over $100,000 for the best hair transplants in the world.
Let's talk about that cost.
Yeah.
What's your take on like cost of hair transplants?
Well, definitely 100,000 is quite an overestimation. Now it's like, even by one of like the best doctors, I mean, if you're a Norwood 7, maybe you pay 100,000 to become like a Norwood 3. But even this could be too much. I mean, that's ridiculously expensive. And then he started talking about something about the strip surgery, at least something with cutting. And we know that FUTs are generally less expensive than FUEs. So if we just look at it this way, the cost will definitely be less than that.
Yeah, even like when I did the Elon Musk video, my estimate was about 50,000 for his like 2 or so transplants. Like I don't think even he paid 100,000. So I'm not sure if that was a real like consultation quote, or if he just, maybe Logic was just kind of throwing a number out there
from the back of my head. And I was like, man, I was really about to go through with it. And I was like, why? Why am I about to slice open and cut myself open? And then I'm like, oh, it's not for me. It's not to look this way or that way. It is for other people.
By the cutting yourself open, I think he's probably referring to the strip. I think you're right about that. And were yours done with strip technique? Or
no,
all FUE?
No, all FUEs.
I'm trying to do this because I want to fit in, or I want to look more normal, or more younger, or more handsome, or what the definition of handsome is, or beauty to this and that and all this other shit. And it's like, I couldn't believe what I was about to do, cut my body open. Now, I personally think that if that's what you want to do, you should totally do it. Like if it was a me thing, like if I was like, yo, I want that, I want that. And yeah, it's like if I could snap my fingers and fucking have, you know, thick ass hair, like sure, who would, like what, you know what I mean? But still, that also comes down to just wanting to blend in and what the media and certain people find like attractive or not, or this or that. You know, it's funny because, you know, me embracing my like and buzzing my head, then you have people even making fun even more,
right,
and clowning even more and creating memes or this or that or whatever the case may be, because, you know, it's funny. And I guess so, but it's like, it can be hurtful.
In terms of buzzing your head, like there's that one guy, Bald Cafe, right? He's got a channel where like I think people just like send in videos, or he talks to them about their experience with like buzzing their head. I've watched just a little bit of his stuff, and it definitely seems, interesting when people decide to just go that route, you know. So I guess, what do you think makes people just shave it all off versus like trying to restore?
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you why it's popular. I mean, why Bold Cafe is able to talk to so many guys and attract many guys into this way of dealing with hair loss. It's simply because it's a quick fix. It doesn't cost any money. You know, if we're not talking about like buying new shaver or whatever every couple of weeks or months, but it's inexpensive, and it's like honestly, it's better to look at yourself, I guess, with no hair than with some horseshoe, you know, thick hair on the sides and back and nothing here, or very thin hair. It's yeah, it's just cleaner. It comes down at the end of the day. It's looking cleaner. You look more like people can take you more seriously than somebody who is like having like an appearance which seems like he doesn't even take care of his appearance. Like, this is very important. Like, there are guys, they just don't want to talk about this hair loss. It's just so draining. It's just something they just want to solve as fast as possible and just put it somewhere and just focus on their life, because they don't want to talk about it. They don't want to discuss the options. They don't want to, you know, even go visit the dermatologist or hair loss doctor or hair transplant doctor, because it's like too draining for them, I guess. And they just don't want to do it. It's just like, man, just let's get over that as fast as possible, as pain-free as possible. And yeah, that's why they do it, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think as more celebrities do it, it's just becoming more acceptable. You know, you have The Rock, who's like this massive sensation internationally, and like, you know, people are like, oh, well, he's bald, so how bad could it be? So yeah, I think that's kind of helped over the years, because it used to be like, if you were like a skinhead, you know, you'd have no hair. Otherwise, you had to try to have some hair. That has changed quite a bit over the years.
Yeah, definitely. I think we live in a good age nowadays where many things are acceptable, man.
I like how you said that like it can be a draining experience to think about all the hair loss, and also like to do things for the hair loss. So like, my aunt called me the other day and she's like, oh, like my hairdresser, she noticed that like my hair was thinning and she recommended I get PRP. What do you think about that? Like, should I do it? And I said, you know, you can do it. You can try, see if it helps you. There are other things you could do too. And I gave her the options, and then she kept coming back to the PRP. And she's like, all right, so like I just do it once? And I'm like, no, it's like medical therapy. You have to keep doing it. She's like, okay, so I do it for like a year? And I'm like, no, like if you want to continue to see that improvement in your hair, you need to just keep doing it. And so she couldn't understand, like, well, like, when does it stop? And it's like, well, it kind of doesn't stop as long as you're serious about maintaining your hair. So I think that concept to people, like thinking about it more of like as a chronic sort of condition, not that it's a condition, but you know, depending on how you're looking at it, almost like a diabetes, where like it's not ever cured per se. It's just like or like high blood pressure. I mean, yeah, you can exercise, diet, and you can do those things for hair too and reduce your stress levels, but realistically, that genetic component for all these conditions is like strong, and so you're just gonna have to keep maintaining. You got to think about it like long term. That is draining. I mean, it's a draining thought that like you have to just keep doing it.
And it can be also expensive, right? Some of the treatments, if guys don't want to take like finasteride, they need to do like topical finasteride and experiments with some, and these are like more expensive. You buy a monthly supply always. Like, it's not, you know, that can also be discouraging for, and then he kind of imagines that doing this for the next 10, 20 years, and he's like, all right, no, thank you. So I can imagine why they do it like that. Yeah.
Everybody talking about my race on socials make the boy want to go postal. Not a lot of shit you can say about me. Yeah, my hairline fading, but my bank account will roast you. It's funny, like,
blow that line.
Yeah, but you got to be honest with yourself. Like, it is funny, but there's a difference between like funny and poking fun and jokes, and then like extreme degradation.
Right.
Like, and that's like 90% of any comment regarding someone's looks or this or that in a negative way is extreme degradation. I don't know. There's like jokes. Like you could joke about. I joke about shit all the time. Like, I did a post on my Instagram and I was like, take it back. Ghost written by my hairline. Like, that's funny. That's like a funny thing. But that was also internal struggle and battling and wanting to be like, yo, I'm okay with this. I'm a grown man. I'm a normal man. I'm experiencing these things. But yo, try to experience that with, you know, 20 million people under a magnifying glass. Anyway, Young Sinatra.
Yeah, I mean, I think again he's bringing up a good point here, that when you have such a huge audience, everything I guess gets like amplified, you know. So it must be a lot to like go through the changes, and then you have everyone just watching, and like you said, under a magnifying glass. So, definitely an element that I guess, you and I probably can't really relate to. It's good to think about because there are a lot of guys, like Logic, where they're starting to think about, but like they haven't fully accepted it. They want to restore their hair. So I guess if someone like this, contacted you and said, well, what should I do? What do I do next? What would your recommendations be?
Well, first of all, you need to ask him what does he even expect, if it's something, extraordinary in terms of result density and all that. And then I always ask, what's his age? How long has he been experiencing hair loss? And these are, or how long did it take his hair loss to reach this current stage that he's obviously sending me some photos. That's usually what I do. And then I can also estimate, all right, maybe it actually went quite fast, so I will accentuate that taking medication part. And if it didn't go so fast, I give it as an option and be like, hey, you should consider it, but you are maybe a little bit more lucky compared to other guys that I've seen. So, but that shouldn't really stop you from considering medication either way, because once you get a transplant, you will need that medication. So it's just, sometimes I'm more like, you got to do it, you got to take that medication, because then it's not going to be fun once you get a transplant. But with some guys, obviously also I've seen it with doctors, when they get a guy who is like older, he's Norwood 2, maybe Norwood 2.5, they're more like, all right, man, get a transplant. They give him some vitamins, and with the time, when he decides to get it on treatment, it's going to be his thing. But he should be always educated. He should always know the benefits of finasteride, of minoxidil, also in conjunction with the transplant, and what can happen if he doesn't do it, right? How that transplant will not look so good several years down the line.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, I mean, like, I agree with you. It's starting with like goals, like defining the goals. And sometimes people are taken aback when I ask them, well, what are you hoping to achieve? And not just for hair, but like for facial plastics too. They're like, what do you mean and what my goals are? And then they're like, I want to look younger. I want to, but I'm like, believe it or not, like, unless you ask, you don't really know like what is going on in someone's head, because some people are just very unrealistic with what they want, and like I always stress to people when it comes to surgery, like, I'm not going to make you look like you did when you were 16. I mean, that is not my goal. It's to give you something that is going to work well for you for years to come. Just from like a surgical standpoint, my feeling would be to focus in on the frontal scalp, pretty much like follow, at least at the hairline, the design that nature has given him, and kind of fill in behind that hairline as much as we can in that frontal scalp, and then bring the temples a bit forward so it kind of meets at a new frontotemporal angle. I mean, that's kind of what I would offer him surgically. Probably somewhere like about 2,000 grafts, and if he wears his hair short, I would go with FUE. I mean, that's my thought. Any ideas? Any feedback on that?
Well, would you also do the temples, or just to fill out the corners?
Yeah. Bring the temples forward, so it just, you have like a new peak, but one that doesn't look as rounded laterally. So yeah, I would bring the temples forward.
Just to make it look sharper. So because if you don't do it, it's gonna be just like that without the temples. Exactly. And it's gonna be like more rounded, like, okay. So that would be like your design. Yeah, that could look cool.
Because he's starting to really thin out, around. It's not just if it was just that recession frontotemporally, my graft count would be lower, if it was just a little bit of thinning here. But because like I really want to go up into this whole section here, and probably even start wrapping around, and maybe reinforce a little bit in the kind of the more forelock region, maybe. I trained with lower numbers, actually. I trained with lower numbers, and I've realized, and partly influenced by some of the work coming out of, like, say, Turkey, where I have issues. I think there are extremes. I think if you go with too low of a graft count, then it's like, there's not a huge change. And then people have to come back, and it's like doing the whole thing over again, even though some people realize they need multiple procedures. But still, you want each procedure to kind of have like impact, I think. And then you have on the other extreme someone who is like Logic, right? And they might go someplace where they'll get an offer for like 4,000, 5,000 grafts. To me, I think that's insane. And the reason is because I think you need to leave some in the bank. I think if you had unlimited supply, then you could make an argument for just maximizing. And the only thing then you have to worry about is like vascular compromise. But in terms of like your supply, I mean, it's just like you're working with this finite number. So I don't ever really want, especially with the first procedure, especially on a younger person, to just blow through their supply, because you don't know exactly how it's going to grow. I mean, you can trust that everything's going to go great, but what if some areas don't grow in as well? Or what if, you know, this doesn't happen often, but some people, you know, by mistake, they rubbed some grafts off day 2. You can't put them back, so then you just lost them. And then so if you just transplanted all their potential supply in one surgery, they're just screwed, you know, or they have to do body hair or whatever, but it's not going to be as good. So I try to create an impact, but not go overboard and exhaust someone's supply. All right, cool. Anything else you want to add about logic or anything hair related to this topic, I guess?
That's pretty much all I wanted to share here.
Matt, I'm going to keep following your content. Really love what you're putting out there. You know, thanks for doing this with me. And I think this will help people. I think a lot of people are in this position and they don't really know the next step. It's good for them to know what their options are. And it's not to say that it's only surgery or it's only shaving their heads. A lot of in-between options.
Yeah, man, it was great. I'm going to do the same. Obviously, I'm a subscriber to your channel as well. And thanks for having me. And we can do a similar thing for my channel next time as well, and think about some cool topic we could share our thoughts on.